Good evening, everyone. I'm on YouTube right now, so we're going to wait till we're live. I think we're live. Hello out there. I don't have any moderators, so sorry. If you leave a comment, I'm not going to be able to get back to you. And hello in here. Thank you guys for coming. Every single one of you. Thank you very much, because we've had, well, it's been a week. And if you want to hear the story of that, that's fine, but that's not what tonight is about. Tonight, I am happy and excited, elated, really, to introduce to you the leader of the fastest growing political party in Canadian history, Maxime Bernier. Getting him here has not been easy. Not because Mr. Bernier didn't want to come, but because getting him here has not been easy. Because it's rough. However, I find it very important that we all get together and speak about the things that are important to us, the things that matter to us, to Canadians, and we're all Canadians in this room. And I'm very excited to be able to have this opportunity and to give it to you guys. Mr. Bernier and I are going to speak for about an hour, and we've got lots of questions to get to. We've had a bit of time to chat on the way here, and I'm excited to get to that. After that, we're going to have a question and answer period where you guys can ask us questions, specifically probably Mr. Bernier. But ground rules first, just before we get going. Any disruptions, and this gentleman here will come over with another gentleman and tell you there's probably a good idea for you to leave now. We are all in agreement that ideas and discussion are allowed and relevant and able to be spoken in this room. And we may touch on things that are uncomfortable. We may touch on things that you don't like, and that doesn't mean we don't like you. That just means that these are hard conversations and we need to have them. It's important. It's important. And so, with that, we are going to get started, and I'm not going to, unless, do you want to have a few minutes to say? You all right? Okay.
That's your show.
This is my show. Yes, so thank you everybody for watching on YouTube, and again, here, Canada Poly Live is about to start, so here we go. Mr. Bernier. Have a seat. On tech support. Okay, so I think that the vision for Canada, the vision for our future, we could talk all night, and I'm sure many people have talked all night about the failures of this current government. The Justin Trudeau administration has been a disaster for this country, but I don't want to rehash all of the old almost 4-year wounds. I want to talk about what does a Bernier administration look like on day one? What are we going to do to fix this?
Yes. We'll be busy. We will be very busy. And on day one, we, first of all, I did speak about being sure to build pipelines in this country from coast to coast. And on day one, what we will do, we'll pass legislation, for example, pipelines, to acknowledge that we have a constitution and use the constitution, the section 9210 in our constitution. When you use that section, you can pass a legislation that would be only one-page legislation, one paragraph, and you are saying, for example, this pipeline is for the national interest of our country. And when you do that, you use the constitution, and the federal government will have the full authority, the full responsibility, the full jurisdiction to approve pipelines. And if after consultation, there's a province like my own province in Quebec or another province in BC that doesn't want a pipeline, would be able to, after consultation, be able to build a pipeline and closing a pipeline. And I think it's important for the unity and the prosperity of this country. So we'll be busy to do that. We'll be busy also at the same time to lower your taxes. It's part of our platform to cut corporate welfare. So the most important would be our first budget. Everything will be in our first budget. But contrary to other political parties, it won't be an omnibus bill putting everything in the budget without any consultation. We know that we have the best ideas and the best policies. So yes, our budget bill will be about the budget. Lower taxes, flat tax on businesses, no more corporate welfare. But also we'll be able to table other bills when we'll have a discussion. I'm giving you as an example the change in the CBC. As you know, in our program, the CBC must be like PBS in the state, and we must be able to save a lot of money by doing that. But we will need to have some consultation with Canadians. So the role of the Parliament, the role of the Member of Parliament will be to have a consultation with Canadians about the best way to do that reform. And we'll pass only one bill for the changes for CBC. We won't put that in the budget because the more discussion we'll have, that committee will be able to have people coming from different backgrounds and philosophy in front of them and having discussion about the future of CBC. The more you speak about that, the better it will be for us to explain that to Canadians, and the easier it will be at the end to pass that bill. So yes, I want to change our country and having a limited government and tabling a budget that will also at the same time say that in a year from now we will balance the budget by saving money, or cutting corporate welfare, or cutting foreign aids, and all these reforms. But at the same time, asking our Member of Parliament to do the role of a Member of Parliament, to be there in their committee and to have hearings and consultation about the best way, not to postpone our reform, just to use the Parliament and the Parliamentary Committee to explain our reform, like the privatization of CBC, like at the same time the abolition of the regulator in telecom industry, the CRTC. What would be the best way to do that? So we'll ask people, but at the end our goal is to achieve what I'm speaking about right now on the platform, because it's nice to have ideas, but we need to have the support of the population. And speaking about our ideas before a campaign, during a campaign, and after a campaign, that will help us to have the support. So answering your question, our platform, everything that is our platform will be our priorities. And we won't ask our minister to come with other pet project around the cabinet table. The task will be to achieve our platform, and we'll take, if it takes 2 years to do that, we'll take 2 years. But we need to do this reform as soon as possible to be able to unleash the private sector, to be able to lower the taxes, because we know that it is the private sector who creates wealth and growth in this country, not the government. So that will be very important for us. The priority of our elected Member of Parliament under the BPC, it's our commitment. And speaking about that, my goal, I want all our candidates, when the official election will start, to sign a pledge with the population. A pledge saying, me, if I'm elected as I'm a Member of Parliament from the BPC, I will do everything to achieve the platform of the BPC. So everybody must understand that the first priority for a Member of Parliament is to deliver what we have in our platform. That's the most important. But also at the same time, you will be able to bring the preoccupations of your people in your riding, but the priority is to work together to be able to pass our reforms as soon as possible.
As a candidate, because I am the candidate for Guelph, just in case you weren't sure, as a candidate, I appreciate that. And we've had a lot of news today, and that's the first time I've heard about the pledge, so that I agree with that. One of the biggest frustrations for me, I'm sorry about this, but I voted for Justin Trudeau. And
No, but it's okay. We have some people who are supporting us, and I'm very pleased. I'll be able to use that as an example, because when I'm traveling and journalists asking me, it's all former conservative that are going to go. I'll be able to say, no, I have a candidate in Guelph. And you are showing to everybody that we can have people from different backgrounds united with our platform, our philosophy, our principles. So it's true.
Yeah, but I voted for Justin Trudeau. One of the reasons I voted for him was electoral reform. And I'm not going to ask you to do electoral reform, but I will say that as soon as he got into office, that was pushed off to the side. There's a little fact-finding mission. They had a committee and then realized he didn't get his way, and that's that. So I'm glad that the thrust of it is to get done what you're promising to get done. How many politicians can say that? Not many.
I don't want to waste my time. I'm 56 years old. I like what I'm doing. It's my best time in politics. And it's too important. These reforms are too important.
Yes.
For one thing, for the unity of this country. I was in Alberta, and I can tell you that I saw the frustration from people over there about what's happening in Ottawa. They're not able to have pipelines, the equalization. And so we need to do that. I don't want to have an independentist government in Alberta in 10 years from now.
Yeah.
And so we know that we have the best ideas, the best policies, and our goal is to be out there and speak and explain that. And the more I will be able to speak about our platform, the better it will be for you and for us. We'll have more support.
It's true. It's true. Okay. Next question. I wrote them down just in case I got lost. You've tweeted and talked about the UN Global Compact for Migration.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. There's been lots of questions about the UN. The UN is continually putting out, most recently, the Global Compact on Migration talks about shaping speech with regard to how the press talks about refugees, immigrants, migrants, all of those words being conflated, meaning the same thing, in the press anyway. And I'd like you to discuss the UN specifically, and then we can talk about migration, immigration, because I think they're separate. But let's focus on the UN part first. What will you do with the Paris Accord? What will you do with the US Global Compact on migration? Where do those fall on your priorities?
But first of all, the UN, it is not the UN that used to be in the 1950s. Now the UN, you have people who have an agenda, and the agenda is to have a global government, like a little bit in the EU, the European Community. The beginning of the European Community was good. It was a free trade between European countries, but now they are imposing their views to other sovereign countries. And I understand what happened in UK with Brexit. People voted to keep their sovereignty. So our relationship with the UN, Canada will still part of the UN, but we won't be part of every UN committees. We won't be part of the Paris Accord Committee. We won't be part of the Global Migration Compact. Why? Because I was the first politician to speak against the Migration Compact. And I did some interview about that. And journalists were asking me a question, Mr. Bernier, that's not important. The Migration Compact, and why are you against that? Because it is not mandatory. It is not binding for Canada. So I said, yes, but why signing an accord if you don't want to follow that? So yes, I know that accord was not and is not binding, so you won't have a UN civil servant that will come to Canada and write our policy on immigration. It won't happen. But what you'll have a civil servant, a bureaucrat, a Canadian bureaucrat that will change our legislation on immigration to follow that compact. And I don't want that. I want our immigration policy. It's so important for the future of this country. It must be discussed in Canada, and we must follow our principle. And for me, an immigration policy for this country must be there to fulfill our economic needs in this country, and not to please the UN. The migration compact from them is migration. It is normal, and every migrant can come to every other countries. But to be Canadians, it is a privilege, and we must be proud, and we are proud as Canadians. So migration, it is not normal. We need to help these people to stay in their countries by having free trade with these countries, and but not open our borders to mass migrations or mass immigration. We're against that. So the relation with the UN, it's a relation where Canada will keep our sovereignty. And this decision must be taken by politicians in Canada.
I agree. So over the last couple of years, we've had Roxham Road in Quebec, and people have crossed, and we just talked about our legal immigration structure. And, well, we touched on it. We'll get into it again. But I want to start with illegal immigration, illegal border crossing. Roxham Road, we've seen 41,000 people cross the border. The people who look into this say that 90% of them don't qualify for any status in Canada due to the fact that they crossed from an already safe country, the United States. So there's no question that they don't qualify, but our system guarantees a trial and a process, and the trial and process takes time.
Yeah.
So could you speak to that and why that is? Why that's not good for our country? And I know, but I'd like to explain.
Yeah, but it isn't good, first of all, because everybody must respect our border, and we are not right now. And these people who are crossing the border in Quebec from the US, from the state of New York, they are not real refugees. Their life is not in danger in the state of New York. So what we must do, we must be sure to help the real refugees that are waiting in a refugee camp in another country. So that's the most important. And yes, I know that Canadians are generous and we want to do that.
Yeah.
So for these 40,000 people that cross our borders illegally the last 2 years, the cost for our country is $300 million. So that's huge. What we must do, we must stop that, and the way to stop that is to first of all be sure that our border will be an official point of entry everywhere, because they are not coming to an official point of entry because they know that they won't be able to cross our border, and so that's why they're crossing unofficial point of entry. But we signed an agreement with the US called the Safe Third Party Agreement. We must solve the loophole in that agreement and being sure that all our border will be an official point of entry. And doing that, these people won't be able to come to our country, and they won't be able also to ask for being a refugees, because they will have to respect our borders. So it's a discussion that you must have with the US, but I think we'll be in a good position to have that discussion, better than Justin Trudeau. So the goal is to have that be solved, and using the tools, the legislative tools that we have in Canada, and after having discussion with the US president, but also at the same time to be able to have a little bit less refugees, because right now our country receives more refugees than the US, and the US they are 10 times bigger than us. So we need to help the real people that are that need to our help, but also at the same time on immigration policy, because it's all linked with immigration. We are the only political party to speak for fewer immigrants, and around 150,000 a year, not 350,000 that will be next year. It's an increase by 40%. But only 6% of our population agree with that to increase our immigration level. And 49% of the population in Canada agree that we must have fewer immigrants, but we must have more economic immigrants, and that's important. That will be part of our reform. And speaking about immigration, I will be in Toronto the 24th of July, I think it's next Wednesday, and I will deliver a speech on immigration, and you'll have all the details about our immigration policy. But the most important would be fix the loophole that we have with the Safe Third Party Agreement, and these 40,000 people that are crossing in Canada, stop that, having fewer immigrants, but also globally having a bigger ratio of economic immigrants. Right now we have only 26% of the people who are coming to Canada are economic immigrants, and more than 70% are refugees or coming under reunification of family. We must change that ratio. We'll have fewer immigrants, but the ratio of economic immigrant can be 85%. Because these people that are coming to our country, when they have a job, it's easier for that person to be part of our society. And at the same time also, it is that person will be able to participate in our society and integrate our society. So, and that was the case a couple of years ago. And also we must go back to our immigration system based on points. If you speak English or French, you'll have more points. And that's the reform that we will do. It is too important, but it is sad at the same time that other political parties don't want to speak about immigration. They think that more and more and more it is a solution. But, I like this country. I want this country to be like that in 25 years. And I'm looking at what's happening in Europe, in UK, in France, in Belgium. They have huge challenges to integrate their immigrants. And we don't want that here in this country. So let's change that, and let's have a real discussion on immigration right now during an electoral campaign. It's the best time to have that discussion.
Yeah. things I want to circle kind of back. You said, or you have said 250,000. I think you said 150,000. You're going to firm that up next Wednesday. I don't want to make you.
Yeah, it's a good question. Thank you for that. I always said that we must go back about the average that we had under Stephen Harper. The average of immigrants that we had at that time was 250,000. For me, it's a maximum, and the minimum was the 150. So our numbers would be between 250,000 and 150,000. We are looking at different also countries, what they are doing to with their immigration system, how many immigrants they are having, and also looking at what is the need for our economy. So we'll come with a firm proposal on the number next week.
Okay, and during your administration, let's say, or in the run-up, let's say the debate heats up a lot, is there room, no, not in the run-up, let's say you're elected and you're moving on.
We are.
Yes, we are elected. Very let's say we're elected and we have a mandate to put our platform through. And it looks like Alberta's booming, and it looks like Saskatchewan or another province, let's do an eastern province, let's say Nova Scotia, is having some issues and they need workers. Right now, it's really hard to move between provinces and so on and so forth. Can we encourage workers from Canada to work in other parts of Canada? Can we do that? Is that something we can look at?
Absolutely, because it's a shame right now that after 151 years that this country is not, we don't have any economic union, and that was the goal of the father of our constitution, to create 150 years ago an economic union to be competitive with the UN, and we don't have that. We have trade barriers for people, for goods in this country. So we need to have a real free trade in Canada. We don't have that. It is very hard to impose that on provinces, but we may use the constitution, and our position on that is we will have Civil 7 in Ottawa that will look at all the regulations that are against free trade of goods and also of people working in different provinces, and we will bring a province in front of the court, and we want the court to have a decision about it, and we think that it is against our constitution to have these trade barriers. So it is not normal that a nurse in BC cannot work as a nurse in Quebec. We're in the same country. So we will work on that, but also at the same time, the decision will come from the court, because we believe that these provinces are not following the constitution where they are imposing trade barriers inside our country. So we'll bring them from the court, and I'm pretty sure we'll be able to win.
Interesting. That makes perfect sense, and I hadn't heard that angle before, but I appreciate that because I do a lot of reading about it. So interesting. Awesome. Let's talk about the United States. Let's talk about Donald Trump. Let's talk about our relationship with him. It has been strained, I think, is putting it mildly. Yeah. And our current administration is more interested in insulting the leader of our biggest trade partner than they are in working with. So how will your administration differ on our relationship with Donald Trump? I know you've talked, and not just Donald Trump, America, the United States, whoever's elected in 2020.
Yeah, absolutely. They're our biggest clients and our allies, and we must work with them, but also we must respect them. Mm-hmm. And what's happened right now with the Trudeau government, Justin Trudeau is interfering in internal American politics, and I won't do that. I will respect the president that the Americans will elect in a year from now. But at the same time, when Justin Trudeau had a negotiation with President Trump, that was the position of the administration during the free trade negotiation was very clear. President Trump wanted for him to be able to export their poultry, milk, and eggs in Canada. And Justin Trudeau said, no, I want to protect that cartel and these 19,000 producers. That was a very bad decision, because after that we had tariff on aluminum and steel, and it's not helping our economy. So that's why, first of all, our relationship with the Trump administration will be to put on the table the abolition of that cartel, and Canadian consumers will save money. We'll do that for Canadian consumers first, but at the same time for a better trade relation with the US. So that's important. And we want to work with our allies, also with NATO. We have a commitment in Canada to spend 2% of our GDP in our own defense. And we are spending right now 0.3% of our GDP in our own defense. We need to increase that. We won't be able to increase that in the first budget. We understand that. But at least in our first budget, we must put that. Our goal is to have our national defense with the right equipment and spending the 2% of the GDP, increasing the amount every year until we achieve that 2%. That, I think, that will start on the right foot, the relationship with the U.S. administration. So we can improve our relationship like that. But what the Trudeau government did at the international scene with the U.S., with India, with other countries, just look, it's a big disaster. We will be very different. We will base our foreign relationship on the prosperity of our country and the security of our country. We won't try to impose some socialist legislation to the U.S. like Justin Trudeau wanted to do with the negotiation in with the American when they try to impose their labor law to some American states. That's their own jurisdiction. When you have a free trade, it's about good and services, and that's it. So we'll be able to have good relationship with the U.S. better than what's happening right now. For sure.
So you're saying that you won't try to impose any kind of language that has to do with anything other than goods and services and trade?
Yeah, a trade deal is a trade deal.
It's a trade deal, just like a budget has to do with numbers and not gender.
And not gender, absolutely.
Do you want a UN Security Council seat?
No. Contrary to Scheer and Trudeau, that they will spend our money to buy votes and giving money to other countries to be sure to have a vote at the UN Security Council. We won't play that game. We want to bring back our own money in our own country and put our country first, Canadian first, people first.
That leads perfectly into this question. Andrew Scheer. Well, I've called Andrew Scheer a globalist. You've called Andrew Scheer a globalist. What does a globalist mean to you? What's a globalist?
I'll give you the example in Europe. What is a globalist in Europe? It's somebody that is ready to give your sovereignty and some powers to another international entity like the UN. And a globalist in North America, it's somebody that is ready to work with the UN on an agenda for a world government. I don't believe in that. We're a sovereign country and we must keep our sovereignty. But at the same time, we must have trade deals and agreement with other countries. But the sovereignty of our country is too important. So being a globalist is somebody that believes that international entities will be better to regulate and legislate on what's happening in our own country. And I believe in we call that the best government. It's always a government that is near the people. So for me, the best government would be the municipal government, and after that, the provincial government, and after that, the federal government. And our constitution is very well written. The power that the federal government is on international affairs, monetary policy, immigration. And usually when you have to deal with your government, usually you have to deal with your provincial government. Healthcare, social services, it's all at the provincial level. The constitution is very well done. So I prefer to keep our sovereignty as a government and not giving some of our power to another entities. And I look what happened in UK with the Brexit votes over there. I think they were fed up to have decisions coming from Europe. We're a country with an identity, like Justin Trudeau said, that there's no national core values or what else is it? There's no national identity in Canada, but that's not true. We know who we are and we're proud of that. So I want to keep that. So I'm very different than people who believe in the international and other countries or other international organizations telling us what to do.
I couldn't agree more. So you talk about how a lot of local things is very local government. And we've got a housing problem here. How does the federal government play into the housing crisis that's currently ripping across a lot of Canada? I've got a brother who's looking for an apartment, and man, there's one-bedroom apartments, bachelor apartments. They are unbelievably expensive, like more expensive than two-bedroom and three-bedroom. But you can't afford the two-bedroom and three-bedroom if you're a single guy or a guy with a girlfriend or whatever. So what is the federal government's responsibility in something like that?
Yeah, I'll speak about, first of all, the monetary policy. It is important to have the right monetary policy. And when I'm saying that, the Bank of Canada right now, with the very low, artificially low interest rate, they are giving incentives to people to borrow. And maybe when the interest rate will go up, it won't be in the best interest of these people. So having the right monetary policy, but also having at the same time the right fiscal policy. We want to lower your taxes, and like that you'll have more of your own money in your own pockets to buy goods and to buy a first house. But also the immigration policy play a role in that. Our immigrants are going to the big cities, Toronto and Vancouver. When you have 320,000 people a year that are coming to Canada, after 3 years, it's almost 1 million people. And 1 million people that they're going to Vancouver and Toronto, that's having an impact on the housing market also. So fixing the immigration, having the right monetary policy, lower your taxes, that will help to slow down the market in Toronto and Vancouver specifically.
So you'll give us time to catch up. So the earning potential and the earning power will catch up to the prices, and maybe with less competition, the prices will come down. What about food prices? Because I've been to Walmart down here, there's Walmart down the road, and I looked for Fruit Loops. My kids like Fruit Loops, and it was $9.99. $9.99 for a box of Fruit Loops. I was like, it was on the end cap. It was like a sale. I was like, really? Is it $14.99 normally? So food prices, what's going on?
Actually, yes. The affordability of goods in this country is going up, like food, and because of the inflation also. So we must have an inflation target with the Bank of Canada of 0%. Actually, the Bank of Canada, the inflation target is 2%. Why 2% inflation? I don't think that inflation is good for this country. If 2% inflation is good, why not 20% inflation would be better? Why not 25% inflation? Inflation, it is bad. It is a hidden tax, and it is a tax. So with the dollar that you have in your pocket, you're not able to buy the same amount of goods and services because of the prices going up. So we must have an agreement with the Bank of Canada on the inflation target, and the inflation target must be 0%. Like that, the inflation will be 0%. You'll be able to keep your purchasing power. And so with $1 in your pocket, you'll be able to buy the same amount of goods today and tomorrow if there's no inflation. When you have inflation, you're not able to do that. So that will be important. The monetary policy, 0% inflation target, but also we can do something very concrete by abolishing the cartel in supply management. Milk, dairy, and poultry. We are paying twice the price for that. And the example, you can cross the border in the US, a dozen of eggs, 99 cents US. Here in Canada, 340 or 350 a dozen Canadian dollars, so it's more than double. Abolishing that cartel, the price will go down because we'll have more goods that will come from other countries, but the milk, poultry, and eggs that will be able to, because we're not able to import right now because of that cartel, and these producers are producing only they are fixing the price, artificially high prices, and also they are fixing the production only for the Canadian market. So we want to abolish that. These producers will be able to export their products, and us as consumers will be able to import milk, poultry, and eggs from other countries. And yes, the price will go down, and a Canadian family will be able to save $400 a year. So that's very concrete reform that will help everybody. And it is too bad that all the other political parties want to work with the cartel and with these 19,000 producers under supply management that represent only 10% of the farmers in this country. 90% of the farmers are working with the free market and not under a socialist system like that. So that's two important policies that will have an impact.
Wonderful. And of course, get rid of that carbon tax, which is
Oh, there's no carbon tax. Yeah. No tax.
You said earlier that the other, and I want to circle back just because sometimes things flash in my brain. I want to talk about them. You said earlier that the other parties don't want to talk about immigration. They not only don't want to talk about it, they want to vilify us for wanting to talk about it. I just want to say that just because it's important to note that it is not just not wanting to talk about it. And I realize I'm circling back, so I apologize, but it's not just not wanting to talk about it. It is weaponizing talking about it. So if I bring up immigration with my family at dinner time, that is a problem sometimes, right? Because everybody kind of goes, and so that's not the way discourse is supposed to be. That's not the way things are supposed to be. That's not the way things used to be. It used to be that, well, politics and religion, you maybe don't bring up around the kitchen table. But there was a time to bring it up.
And it is the time right now. And I'm asking you to speak at the kitchen table right now about policy and politics.
Yes, but how do we break through that almost weaponization of discussion? Right? I don't want to talk about politics because I know that you're gonna have a different opinion than me, so we can't have that conversation. How do you break through that, or you personally?
But first of all, you have to respect people.
Yes.
But at the same time, also, you cannot force somebody to have a discussion about something. But the more we are speaking about it, and the more I think people will be curious at the end. Mm-hmm. Okay, what is that PPC? It's a new party. I was in Edmonton. And I did door-to-door with our candidate over there. And so I was at the door and say, oh, this is the PPC and my candidate. Okay, what's the PPC? That's a new party. Oh, no, I don't want to speak about the new party because you'll split the vote. Oh. So, no. I don't want to speak to you. Yeah, right. So and they said, can we just expand our platform? And when I spoke about localization and pipelines, and that lady look at us and me and our candidates, are you serious? My God, okay, I want to help you guys, I'm ready to be there. And I said, what's about your argument about splitting the vote? She said, I don't think you'll split the vote because if you speak like that, you'll have all the votes. Respecting people and being out there and speaking about what we believe, that's a solution. But also look at our candidates. We have candidates with different backgrounds, different ethnicity, different color, and we represent the country, and I'm proud of that. We just did a great announcement with our candidate in London, with Professor Minshew and Salim and everybody around us. So everybody is ready to speak about our values, and you cannot say that our party is a racist party. You cannot say that. People who are saying that is because they don't want to have a conversation. They don't want to have a conversation because when we're having the conversation, we are winning the conversation.
Yes, and that's it. As soon as I start being called names, whether that's on Twitter, although not on Twitter right now. Looking at you, Twitter. But on Twitter in real life, as soon as there's something that I say that they can't wiggle in and I don't know, badly counter, which they don't. They just start calling names, ad hominem attacks.
Or they will block you.
Or they block. Yes, Michelle Rempel, anybody?
Yeah.
Blocked by Michelle.
I can tell you that I don't block anybody, and I'm a public politician, and I'm on Twitter and social media, so it's important for me as a politician to read everything and listen what people have to say. It is a shame that Michelle Rempel, she blocked everybody. I think it's not democratic to do that. But yes, let's have the discussion on social media, but also in real life with people. And that's why this party is growing like that. Because we have people on social media, people who are speaking on the street, and it is the fastest, like you said, fastest growing political party in the history of our country. I'm proud. We have 40,000 members, and we have 300 candidates right now, more than the Green, the NDP, and the Liberals. So it's going well, and great candidates all across the country. So this party is growing because we have the right ideas. It's not because of me, Maxime Bernier, or 5 person at the head office. It's you guys. We didn't build this party with myself and 5 people at the head office. It's volunteers all across the country who believe in these ideas and freedom ideas. So it's because of the ideas that I think we have a strong movement. And like I said today, that it's a kind of a quiet revolution, and that something is happening in our country. And we're going to be ready the 21st of October.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We have time. Oh, hey, good. Oh, I thought it was 24. You said you have 300 candidates across Canada. Now, I've been paying attention. I've been watching the numbers, right? Did you know that the NDP only has 108?
I didn't know that.
Can you imagine if you only had 108 at this point? What would the press be saying, right? That would be a totally different story.
Right.
So NDP have 108, and you just said that you have 300 confirmed.
Yeah.
So can I tell people why that's important? Or do you
Tell.
Yeah, okay. So we need 304 minimum in order to reach the 90% criteria to have Mr. Bernier at the debates. So the reason I got involved, the reason I started this was simply to get this. I didn't start this. He started this. The reason I got involved with this was to get you to the debates, and it looks like we're right there.
Almost
We're right there.
We'll have 338 candidates for sure. And there's a second condition also. The first one, 304 candidates all across the country. We'll have that maybe in a couple of weeks from now, but we'll have the 338 candidates for sure. So that's the first condition. The second one is to have reasonable chances to elect candidates. So that's very subjective. And so I believe that we have reasonable chances to elect candidates. What's happening right now, all across the country, after 10 months, we are on average of 5, 6, 7% for a new party. Our challenge is people don't know the name of our party. If you look at the poll, the traditional poll, you see about 30% of candidates are undecided, and it's about 30%. And so I think a lot of these people can come with us, but also in some region in this country, like in Alberta, like in Quebec, in certain region, also here in Ontario, we are at 15, 20%. So for me, like I said, the election will be in two phases. The first one before the debate, and we may be around 10, 15% in the poll, but the second one after the debate, because people will know that I will answer the question, I will ask the right question, and that will be a very different debate. And people will be able to see what we believe in, and that will be important, because I don't believe right now that we have a fair coverage by the mainstream media. But that debate will be important, and that's why I think I'm very optimistic for our future.
Yeah, I agree. I think that and that's why I was so passionate. I was one of the. I've been doing my show for a long time. People have been watching me. And when you broke from the Conservative Party in August of last year, 2018, you had more meat in your 8-minute. I'm done with these morally, intellectually corrupt parties. You had more meat.
Yeah, but I must admit that when I said that morally and actually corrupt, I must admit that I didn't say corrupt, I said corrupt. My English, I was a little bit nervous, and my English was not so perfect. So if you look at the video, you see intellectually and morally corrupt. You understand that it was corrupt. So it's okay.
Sorry, I didn't. But you had more meat in that speech. You said more in 8 minutes than Mr. Scheer said at his convention that weekend in 45, and the whole 2 days. So you had me in that 8 minutes, and I felt then, and I still feel now, that if the rest of the country could see any 8 minutes, any 4 minutes of you talking about the actual meat and potatoes, the actual meat of it, the details, you'd have 50, 60%, but that's just me. I'm a little biased.
No, I think you're right, and what I can improve to help our candidates all across the country, I've been told that last week, and I think that person was right. I need to get a bit more. People are following me on Facebook and Twitter, and I think you like our tweet. There's no political correctness, and it's what we believe. But I think a person told me, a lady told me that, I must do more little videos and 1 minute, 2 minutes videos.
Yes.
And that's my commitment. I will start next week to do more little videos, maybe one every 2 days, and on Facebook, on Twitter. I think people like to see me and reading what I'm saying. It's okay, but they like to see that it's coming really from me. And so
everywhere you go, do it.
Yeah. But on not only on what I'm doing in a day, but on policies.
Yes.
And so I'll do that. I think you agree with that.
Yeah.
So that's my commitment. Next week, one every 2 days, minimum.
I would say, as a suggestion, just like the car ride over here, you could have pulled your phone out, have a selfie stick, and we could have had a conversation while just 2 minutes, talking about pipelines or whatever. We chopped some wood on the way over here anyway. Veterans, this is something close to my heart. My brother is forces. In forces, he flew home on the Prime Minister's jet, believe that or not. Yeah, I know, pretty crazy. He's healthy. So veterans, and not that I haven't heard a whole lot, but I've asked you on Twitter and some other things, and I just want you to talk about the current administration is, my brother aside, deeply, deeply disappointing in the moves they've made with regards to our veterans. So I'd like you to speak about that and plans for future.
But first of all, these people fought for what we believe, for freedom and being in this country. We must do a little bit more. And if you look at our policies, it is maybe a lot about cutting, saving, and cutting taxes, and cutting subsidies. And I will speak about, because it's our jurisdiction, our veterans, our Canadian forces. And yes, we'll have a policy like the others, 2 pages on our veterans. And I'm looking at it. We are doing some consultation with the expert, what would be, but we'll reinvest. It's a question of more money, but having the right program. There's a lot of programs for them right now, and I think you can be more efficient. But answering your question, just wait. We still have 3 policies that must be up there. One on our veterans, another one on our national defense, and it's all about more money. So that's why we need to do all these cuts and being able to reinvest after that. And the other one on the relationship with the First Nation, and the other one also on tough on crimes, what we want to do as a policy on that to be sure that we'll be able to have a safe environment. So these policies will come, but we just need to finish the research and the consultation. But for your answer, wait, we'll have something, but what I can tell you is it will be more money for sure.
Okay.
We need to give more money and having the right programs, so we'll take care of our veterans.
Okay, so are you looking for? Are you looking for any input from people, or are you looking for anybody?
Oh yeah, certainly. They can go on our People's Party of Canada website and write an email to us about it. My goal is the goal of our party is in September to have all our policies. But right now we have more policies than the Liberals and the Conservatives together. Mm-hmm. And if you go on their website, and I want you to go on the Conservative Party of Canada website and the Liberals Party of Canada and look for their platform. You won't find anything. You'll find some nice virtue signaling and a nice slogan. Yeah. But you won't be able to find real policies. And so, I like competition. So don't instead, if you're not sure to support our party, go and Google and go on the other website. You'll see we have bold policies and it's always the same. The issue, the facts, and after that, the solution. And it's straight, and you can do your research, and everything that is there, it's good research, good information, and that's why we're ready to have the debates. But what I'm saying is, before September, we want to have all our policies ready, and that will be the full platform for the official election.
Wonderful. I'm looking forward to reading the pending ones.
Yeah.
Very cool. So let's touch on the environment. I know that Guelph is. Well, Guelph is very Guelph. I think that you don't know what that means. You don't know what that means, but these guys do. And Guelph, the environment is very, very near and dear to people's hearts, and it's something that is going to be challenging in this riding, no doubt. However, the Greens have pledged to support a Justin Trudeau government. So what, for real, Elizabeth May has already given her balance of power to Justin Trudeau, which I think is strange to do before the election is called, but whatever. So if you can speak to the environmental protections, our waters, our air, our water, and what we're going to do.
Yeah. Yes, we need to have a platform on the environment, but we won't have a platform on climate change. Climate change is a shared jurisdiction with provinces and the environment. So for us, no Paris Accord, no carbon tax, no more regulation on businesses. But for the environment, we want to be sure to have clear lakes, clear rivers, and we will have a platform, we will reinvest, and that's very concrete for the environment. So I think people are ready to have a platform that I will tell them, okay, we need to do something with that lake, and we'll be very concrete and how much money we'll invest. But for the climate change, for us and for me, I believe that we're not climate deniers. The climate is changing and it will always change. That's okay. What we're saying is the main reason why the climate is changing. It is not because of human activity. It is not the main reason, human activity. That's important. Human activity may have a role, but at the end, there's other factors, and I'm not a scientist, and I want to invite the Writing Association and our candidates. We will have a convention or a conference, training conference with our candidates the 17th and 18th of August in Ottawa, and we'll have a special guest, and I hope that the special guest, I'm still in discussion with him, I hope that we will be able to bring Patrick Moore. Patrick, I'm waiting your call. I'm waiting your decision on that. But yes, and Patrick is a former founder of Greenpeace, and he's a scientist, and he will be able to have a discussion with us about climate change as a scientist. And I think that will be important. But yes, for the environment, we will have something concrete that will come, and we'll do what it is important. We think that it's important.
Wonderful. Patrick, if you've got extra time, come to Guelph too.
Northumberland.
Northumberland, yes. So, just going to check my notes. I've got a question about companies going bankrupt and leaving, companies going bankrupt and leaving people in the cold, right? So, is there any reforms? No, it's kind of your jurisdiction. It's out of our jurisdiction.
What we can do, if a company is going bankrupt, it's because they're not competitive. And if they're not competitive, it's because maybe they don't have a good product and nobody wants to buy it. Maybe they have a good product, but at the end they're paying too much taxes and they're not competitive and they cannot improve their product. So our tax reform with a flat tax on business at 10% and no more also capital gains tax, that will help. That will help these corporations. But when a corporation is going bankrupt, I'll give you an example about SNC-Lavalin. SNC-Lavalin from Quebec, I was doing an interview with the French TV station in Quebec, and they said, Mr. Bernier, we must protect SNC-Lavalin because if you don't give them a privilege, they will go bankrupt. And I said, first of all, no corporation is above the law. And if you have a corrupt corporation, the prosecution must go on, and that's different than the same thing in Russia. We said they wanted to give a special privilege to SNC-Lavalin, and for them not being prosecuted. So my position and our position was very different. But there's a legislation there, that must be the same thing for every corporation. But the other question is, Mr. Bernier, SNC-Lavalin will go bankrupt. But what is the asset of SNC-Lavalin? It is the people. And so it is the people, and I'm pretty sure that if SNC-Lavalin has to go bankrupt, all these people that are not corrupt and are working with SNC11, they would be able to find another job and to build another corporation and do the same. The asset is the people. So when a corporation is going bankrupt, you have always another corporation that will come and will buy the asset or will change the name and do more advertising and being better. So it's bad on a short term for the workers, but usually the workers will be able to find another job. And if you have an open economy, that will be easier. If you have good training for these people, that will be easier. And training is a part of foreign job jurisdiction, but also at the same time, if you are having a good unemployment insurance program, that will help them to do the transition. So that's why under our jurisdiction, defense, unemployment, it's under our jurisdiction. We must be able to invest, to reinvest, and that's why balancing the budget in 2 years, it is so important to be able to still have these social programs that we have at the federal level. The deficit won't help, and it is not fair for future generation of this deficit. As you know, Justin Trudeau added $70 billion on our deficit, so that's not the solution. It is unfair for the future generation. They will have to pay for that without having any benefits. So the spending that the Trudeau government did was not on infrastructure or roads or bridge. It was on social program. So we need to be sure to balance the budget, having the surplus after that, and that's the only way how we will be able to keep our social programs. So I think that all together we need to do all these reform and speaking about it to be able to have the possibility to improve our social program in this country.
Right. So basically you're saying pay down the deficit, use the money, well, 50-50 to pay off the debt and the other 50 to continue to fund our social services. And that way we're all richer. I mean, we're not
absolutely spending on nothing. And we'll be responsible.
Yeah.
That's the only way to do it.
Yes, yes. Okay, changing gears just a little bit. This morning, you were supposed to fly into Toronto and then on to London. Airports. And that didn't work out so well. And thankfully, we had a PPC person who was by the airport close enough who could pick you up and get you where you needed to be. But otherwise, today could have been much more tight than it was, which I'm glad that everything worked out well. What are you going to do about airports, airplanes? I've got a house in Deer Lake that we like to go to in the summertime, and I'm going to be taking a flight there. And last year, one of the airlines that fly in and out of there decided that they weren't going to continue service for specific dates. And so this year we have to take a different airline. Or it was more expensive. Whatever. It doesn't matter. More money, right? Everything's more expensive this year thanks to inflation. So what are we going to do to help with that part? Is there a help for that?
Absolutely. We have a reform for that. In Canada, yes, it is a huge country, our country. And but we need to be able to travel across the country by plane, and it must be cheaper. Now we are able, but it's very expensive. So why? Because we have legislation against foreign investment in the aviation sector, and so we need to abolish that. We need also to privatize our airport. Right now, when the airport has to do some renovation and improvement, the only way is to tax the consumers, or to tax the corporation, the aviation corporation. So with fees. And in Europe and in Australia and other countries, the airports are privatized. So when they're privatized, they have the ability to go on the capital markets to raise money. So instead of always taxing the user and the consumers, they'll be able to find money at the capital market and do their improvement. So and right now, they have to pay a rent. Every airport has to pay a rent at the federal level. And the rent, it's a big income from the federal government. But first of all, we must give them the land for $1. That will be part of the privatization. And that must be people from the region that will manage the airport. And second, they must be able to go on the capital market to raise money. So they must be a full independent corporation. And that would be important. So we'll have more efficient airport. But at the same time, we will we'll repeal the legislation against foreign investment and also on the aviation sector. So we need to have more competition. That would bring more competition. We need to be able to have other carriers that are not Canadians to come here and to compete with WestJet and Air Canada. So that would be part of the reform. So more free markets, more freedom, more private investment, and more also opening our borders. And if another corporation, aviation from another country wants to come to Canada to compete, let's them do that. And that will be the consumers at the end who will benefit from that. So yes, we need to do this reform on the aviation sector, but also the one on the telecom sector. Our fees for our cell phones are very high. Because we have a legislation in Canada against foreign ownership in the telecom, and we don't have a lot of investment coming from other telecom corporation, not foreign telecom corporation. So we have TELUS, we have Bell Canada. We need to have other corporations that will come here to compete. So let's abolish these restrictions, and you'll have more competition. With more competition, you have better products and lower prices. So that would be a solution also for the telecom industry, and the same thing also, the same logic also for the aviation industry.
Makes sense to me. It seems like our policies are cheaper, less taxes, common sense.
Yeah, common sense.
Things that make sense to people, right? When I'm out door knocking and I knock on the doors, I often leave with a couple of different policies that I think people are interested in around here. And the more I talk with people involved, the more I speak with people at the door, the more excited they get, and then they come to my website, our website, for People's Party, but mine locally. Yeah. And I've been getting about 3 emails a day recently talking about different policies and how people are excited for different reasons. And there was an NDP person that one of my door knocking team and I spoke to, and they were talking about how they were concerned with privatization of healthcare. And I've said, and I've looked at the European kind of mixed systems, and I've looked at other
universal mixed system.
Universal
because they have a universal coverage, but they can choose to go to a private hospital or a public one. Right. Everybody is covered,
and everybody has the same.
Yeah, not like in the US.
Right. So, and that was the distinction that I had made too. I said we're not chasing a United States style system. We're chasing a system where your parents, my parents, aren't going to end up in a hospital hallway in Ontario to have a serious time. I mean, when you're in the hospital, that is a very vulnerable time. You don't want to be sitting in the hallway where there's people just walking in and out. And that's happening right now. And so we need a solution.
And, I was in Alberta, and I had the privilege to have a discussion with a lady that was coming from Ukraine. And she told me, Maxime, in Ukraine, we don't have any waiting lists over there, waiting times. We don't wait for services. And here, if you look at our data and you compare that with other countries like in Europe, we have the worst waiting times. So we need to change that. And that would be important. But at the same time, at the federal level, we don't manage any hospital. So it's a provincial jurisdiction. We want to give them the right incentive by giving them all the money that we received at the federal level. The GST, $40 billion a year, will go to provinces. They will collect the GST and they will keep the GST. So it is important because right now, because of the waiting times and the services that is not so good, you don't know as a citizen who to blame. Is it the federal government because it's not giving enough money to your province? Or is it the province because they're not able to manage efficiently the healthcare services? So we want you to know to blame, and that would be your provincial government. Because the federal government, instead of taxing people and giving subsidies, $40 billion to all the provinces, the GST, by the way, the income that the federal government receives every year, it's about that $40 billion. So we'll give them the power to tax, we'll give them the GST, they will be independent, and you will know to blame. And that will give the right incentive to these provinces to look at another system. And we know that the best system, it is in Europe, with a mixed system, private delivery and public delivery, but a universal coverage for everybody. So that will give the right incentive to provinces because they will decide if they want to tax more. They won't be able to come at the federal level and asking every time more money, more money. we will give them the power to tax. So they will decide if they want their provincial budget to be 50% of healthcare or 52%. Right now in my own province, I think it's 46% of the provincial budget, it's going on healthcare. The solution is not more and more money. The solution is to have a more efficient system and more competition between private delivery and public delivery. So that would be a provincial decision to have a mixed system. It won't be imposed by us at the federal level. But because we won't be there to save them every time and to giving them more money, they will have a decision to take. If they want to tax you more, that will be their decision. If not, they will have to look at other models, and I think they will be able to have a mixed system like in Europe, and they will know that it's more efficient for you and for them. They will have more money in their provincial budget to pay for other items or other policies.
Interesting. And for me, I think that sometimes you bury the lead, and it's necessary because you're telling a story, you're telling us exactly what's going on. But the GST thing, when I read that you would be giving the provinces the power to tax, giving them the GST, that's exciting for me, and that's weird because I like politics that much. I was like, ooh, that's exciting, the difference between GST. It'll be HST, but it'll all be, anyway, I'm very strange about that. But I think that is very visceral. Like, I grew up with the GST. I remember it coming in and like people being angry about it on the way home from Toronto. Like, with we used to go visit my grandmother in Toronto, and then on the drive home they talk the news. And I remember it. Like, I remember it very visceral. It's very in my body. So that changed, and it's such a weird thing for me to focus on. But I think it's that power, that the ability for me as a citizen to know that the healthcare is 100% dealt with by the province, and it's not. There's no passing the buck. There's no, oh, it's that guy's fault. It's that guy's fault. Next year you can, vote that guy out, and maybe we'll fix it, and then that happens and nothing gets fixed. I think the reforms that you're talking about, the real material changes. It's not just the shell game. I don't know what it's called. It's not a shell game. You're actually talking about meaningful reforms that will move the needle for everyone in this room. If even half of what you're talking about gets done, and it looks like you're on track. If we get a mandate to actually get it done. And so that's exciting. That's exciting.
Thank you. And I just want to give you a fact. When I was running in 2006, my first election with Prime Minister Stephen Harper, we had 5 commitments to Canadians. And one of them was to get rid of the waiting time. I remember. Because it was so important for Canadians. It was one of their first priority. So, but it was not under our jurisdiction. But we wanted to have votes, and we put that in our program, in our 5 priorities. We will fix the waiting times for healthcare in this country. We were not, after 9 years, we're not able to fix that. It's not the federal jurisdiction, so we need to change that, and that's why the best thing it is to do that reform. But we were able to achieve all the other commitments in 2006, but that one, we were not able to because it's a provincial jurisdiction. So we don't want to say something to please you and knowing that we don't have the power to do it. We don't do any focus group, we don't do any polling, we have policies that are based on our 4 principles, and that's it. You like it, come with us. You don't like it, you can vote for the others, and that will be okay.
But they're all the same, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I went over. So my last question, and this is the last question, really quick, probably. I haven't told you I'm going to ask you this question, but it's a softball.
You're like a CBC.
So you and Dr. Peterson, back when you were in the Conservative leadership race, it was widely reported that you guys had met and talked. And so what was your biggest takeaway from Dr. Peterson? I'm interested personally, and I hope that's not too much of a curveball.
Personal responsibility and individual freedom. That's his book. It's all about personal responsibility. Don't ask what your country can do for you, like who was Kennedy. Thank you, Kennedy. But he said also, ask what you can do for your country. I like to change that. Don't ask what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for yourself. That's for yourself. Be responsible. I had a good relation, but I can tell you that George Jordan told me something, and for me it was a compliment. He said, Maxime, I just want to quote him pretty well, you're the best, worst politician.
I would think that's a compliment.
Yeah. So he's not in politics. I don't expect that he will support us, but he won't support any politician, and it's okay, you know.
Yeah,
but I think he likes what we're doing, and he really believes in the individual freedom and personal responsibility, and it's part of our platform. So yes, he's a great Canadian, and I'm very pleased that we have a good relationship. And I understand that he cannot support a politician, what he's doing, but I think saying that, it's a little bit like a kind of a support.
that is neat, and what a wonderful answer. Like, really, that's very satisfying to me. I am a fan of Dr. Peterson, and I do so. That's neat that it's like one or two of the core principles of the party. I think that's quite the compliment to Dr. Peterson, and testament to how much you value his opinion on that, and that's wonderful. I think that's great. So we're going to open it up to questions. Sandra, if you could do that. Put your hand up. Our man Sandra will come over to you with the microphone, and you can ask questions of me. I'm just kidding.
In regards to healthcare, are we looking at becoming, instead of 90% reactive and 10% proactive, to helping our healthcare system fix itself by through education and changing it so that we're maybe 50-50 at some point in time, or even greater on the proactive? Because if you take care of your body rather than treating it like a dumpster, you're going to be healthier. You're not going to be going to the doctor for as many issues or as many problems. I heard at one point in time, some people go, the average person goes 8 times a year. Well, I'm not going 8 times a year because I take care of myself. I'm proactive versus reactive.
I hope Canadians will be proactive, you know, with personal responsibility. You are responsible for your health, and but we need to have healthcare services in this country, and but the reform that I'm speaking, transferring the GST, that's the beginning. I don't know if in Ontario or Alberta or the province they will implement a mixed system. I think it's the best for consumers, but that will be a provincial decision. So speaking about the individual, yes, it's your responsibility to be in shape, and but at the end, you know, we cannot force anybody to do what they don't want to do.
True. And one aspect of the healthcare system is there's, my understanding, 4 different structures for, past policies and procedures. This doctor's on this platform, this doctor's on this platform, and they keep changing. Do you have the power to make it one system?
No, we don't, because it's a provincial jurisdiction. And actually, we'll have more competition. Like in my own province in Quebec, there's more private delivery, there's more private clinics in Quebec. And I know that some people in Ontario are going to Quebec for some operation. And so that will depend. Every province will have, and the best one will be the more efficient. So we won't have the same everywhere. But at the same time, Canadians must be able to have the service. It can take more time in one province, and in other provinces, because they're more efficient, you won't wait so long. So, but we won't impose the reform. We will just give the money and the taxation power to provinces, and that will be in their court at the end. Yes.
Hello, Max. So I'm from Niagara originally. Niagara has Niagara Falls, as I'm sure everybody knows.
I've been there. Very nice.
So we had the first hydroelectric dam in the world. We used to be one of the most energy resourceful regions, and now Niagara has the highest energy. I know this is Guelph, not Niagara, but we in Niagara, my family, the people I care about, have the highest energy costs in all of North America, yet we live next to Niagara Falls. And then I guess, would you be able to see, you talked about alternative energy, would nuclear be an option on the table you'd be willing to discuss with people in Parliament?
Yes, but at the end, the decision will come from your provincial government. the cost of the electricity in Ontario is because of bad policies at the provincial level. So at the federal level, I'm not running to be the Premier of Ontario. I'm running to be the Prime Minister of Canada. But at the end, that's why it's so important to lower your tax and giving you more of your own money. The cost of living is so high, and the electricity, and it's not affordable. When you look at it, I know that some businesses in Ontario decided to go in US because of the cost of the electricity and the energy. So the solution, it is at the provincial level. But what we can do, we can have the right national economic policies with monetary policies, a tax policy at the federal level. But at the end, the energy policy, it's your provincial government. So,
All right, fair enough.
thank you.
Yes, so a question pertaining to natural health products. Right now, the current government and Health Canada are looking at constricting and limiting and also regulating a lot of those choices, the freedom for you to make a decision, to help yourself, take care of yourself if you need to. So, what is your position on this?
Yeah, first of all, you're right saying that Health Canada, the way that they are regulated natural products, it's like a drug. And it is not a drug. So we must look at it for sure and giving more freedom to people. They're responsible. If they want to buy natural products for their challenge, it's up to them. But I understand pretty well that Health Canada, they are focusing on the pharmaceutical drugs, and they're using the same model for the natural remedies. So yes, we're open to change that. That will give you more choice and also a kind of a competition. If you have an alternative with a health products and a drug products, that must be your choice to be able to choose that. Yes, we'll look at it for sure.
My name is Gordon Truscott. Unfortunately, we are more draconian in Canada than we realize. Statistics Canada provides that every year there are more than 100 babies out of abortion that are born alive, and they are allowed to die on the table. What would your government's response be to that?
On the abortion?
On the babies that are born alive?
Some abortions, the baby's alive when it comes out of the womb. And they let them out.
Okay, well, first of all, our party won't have a position on abortion because it's a moral and a conscience matter. But at the same time, if a member of our parliament from the PPC or another party wants to table a bill on abortion, we'll have a debate in the House, and that will be a free vote, and that's important. That's our position. Every member of parliament must have the right, and they have the right. As a member of parliament, you have the right to table a bill, a private bill. When we call a private bill, what we call a private bill, it's a bill coming from a member of parliament, not from the government. So every member of parliament has the right to table a bill on any subject. So that can happen. A member of parliament from the BBC can table a bill on that, and yes, we'll have debates on that subject. That will come. I'm open to that. But if we have a debate, it has to be a free vote for everybody, and it will be a free vote for everybody.
So I just want to add to what Mr. Bernier said. The People's Party is the only party willing to debate this. Mr. Scheer has said that the debate is over. Mr. Trudeau has said that you have to be pro-choice in order to be an MP under a Liberal MP. And so Mr. Bernier is saying very clearly, he's not making up his mind which way the party is going to vote. He's saying that we can talk about this, which I think is the essence of our democracy. He's not going to make the choice as party leader, and I'm not going to make the choice as the representative from Guelph. But if it's important for Guelph to have that debate brought to the House of Commons, then I will bring it. And then we'll have the debate. And that's the big difference between the People's Party and every other party. No other party is willing to have the conversation. And we are hungry for the conversation. And that is the biggest difference between everyone else and the People's Party of Canada.
Absolutely.
This gentleman might have been referring to late term
Yeah.
abortions.
Yes. We don't have any legislation in Canada on that. So I'll give you an example. In Quebec, the Quebec government gave a statistic about it maybe a month ago, and about 22 ladies had a late-term abortion in Quebec last year, and that's the average every year. Late term, it's after 24 weeks. So, but there's no doctor in Quebec to do that because it's against their values. And so these ladies have to go to the US for an abortion, and the Quebec government is paying for that. So there's no legislation in Canada on that. That's why some people must bring legislation in front of the House, and we'll have a debate when that will happen.
I want to return to the healthcare system.
Yes.
Because something that I'd like to clarify.
Yeah.
You talked about a private and a public healthcare system.
Yeah.
Now, as I understand it, a person who has a health card would have free access to the public system, but for the private system, the person will have to pay.
No. When I'm saying universal coverage, it's universal coverage. The person will choose. If it's a doctor that person wants to see Dr. B, and Dr. B is working in the private sector, she will be able to go, or he will be able to go to see Dr. B. And if that doctor is working in the public sector, that person will be able to see that doctor. So it's a universal coverage, but they have the choice for a private delivery of services or a public one. Like in Sweden, like in France, like in Belgium, like in other European countries.
So the person would be able to see the doctor working in the private system and at no cost.
Yeah, no cost. They will have a universal coverage. They will have a coverage by an insurance.
Oh, right. So the insurance company's going to pay the people in the private.
The insurance company, it will be, that's what we have right now. You are paying with your taxes what's happening right now. So we'll do a reform and everybody will have an insurance. And that insurance can be the public insurance or it can be a private insurance. You will have to decide. But everybody will be able, and you choose the one that is better for you. It can be from the public sector or not. So everybody will be free to choose their insurance. But at the end, everybody will have to be insured by public or private insurance. That will be your choice. And after that, when you have your insurance, you'll be able to go to see a private clinic or having services in a hospital.
These insurance plans, do you envisage that the public system will just be one level of coverage, like one level of benefits, which would be the same for everybody?
It will be the same for everybody. It will be the same for everybody. The private, they will have to respect some rules before giving you an insurance and some criteria, and that must be the same. But also, because we'll have private insurance, that will have competition there, but they will have to offer you'll be able to go where we want to go, and that's important. The best system is the system in Sweden. It's supposed to be a socialist country, but they have that system, and if you want to know more details, you can do on the Fraser Institute website, they did some research about that. But it won't come from me at the federal level. The only reform that we'll do, we will transfer the money, the GST, the tax. So every province will be able to tax and use the GST, and after that they will use. Maybe we won't have a mixed system, private delivery and public delivery. Maybe it will be in 5 years, 3 years from now, I don't know. But the most important, everybody must be covered, and everybody must be able to go where they want to go.
Just one last question. On these private insurance plans, private companies offering insurance, will there be different levels of benefits depending on if you wanted to pay more and get more benefit? Like, for example, a private room, for example, under the plan, the insurance plan.
Maybe yes, maybe some details like that. But the most important, the coverage must be for the same services. If you want some upgrade, like a private room, you may pay a little bit more. But you need to have the same cost for the same service at the private delivery or public delivery. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Bernier, thank you for stepping up. This is definitely something well needed. But I work for Canada Post, and you mentioned about the privatization. Like, I'm all for it. I can see many inefficiencies there, but can you talk a little more about that, possibly?
What I think the most important for you is your pension plan. And the way that we can do a privatization, we can do that by being sure that you won't lose any benefit in your pension plan, and that's important. So, we did a privatization of Petro-Canada. When I'm saying we, the Mulroney government did the privatization of Petro-Canada. It went pretty well. So the idea is to do the privatization, and before that, we will, like I said, we'll have a committee from member of parliament that will look at it and the best and the more efficient way to do it. But at the end, the pension plan is important, and yes, we want to be sure that you keep your privilege in the pension plan.
Hi. Hey, I just wanted to ask about, I agree with you getting out of the global compact and the Paris Accord.
Yes.
But how do you plan to do that without getting a Kennedy haircut from the true powers that be in this world?
Without what, sorry?
The true powers that be, the money masters. The people that run things, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but first of all,
that's true.
yeah, but the compact, it is a Canadian decision. Justin Trudeau decided to sign, the migration compact, and so that was his decision. Would you oppose it?
I know you want out of it, right? You say the Paris Accord was hard.
And same thing with the Paris Accord. Yeah. So it's our decision here in Canada. We don't have to do any consultation. The only consultation that we're doing right now, it's the election. When you're elected, you have the mandate to do your reform. And that's why it's important to speak about our reform, and we'll have the mandate to do it. But what can happen, we can have some protests in Ottawa that won't be happy with our reform. But yeah, I can tell you, if we don't have any protests in Ottawa the first year, it's because we're not doing our job. We will have the dairy producer that will protest, and we'll have other special interest group that will protest. That's okay, that's our democracy, and we're ready for that. So, answering your question, it is our decision at the end. I'm not afraid that we'll be able to.
But you're not worried that the powers that be might try to take you out or anything, like a Kennedy?
No, I'm not, no. We'll do it. We'll do it 100%.
I just want to speak to that as well. I think what we're seeing right now with the media coordinating and reporting similar stories, regardless of what happens on the ground, regardless of the smiling faces in this room, regardless of the applause and the thousands of people listening with maybe bad sound. Sorry, everyone. I don't know. But with all of that, with all of what's happening in Canada, and like I said, I've been out knocking doors. I do my show daily. I hear people email me, people talk to me, and I've heard from Mr. Bernier and all sorts of other PPC people that regardless of the polls saying 1%, more than 50% know the party when I knock on the door. And of those 50% of those people are saying, I'm going to vote for you. You're the PPC guy? Thanks for coming by. I'm going to vote
just like Hillary was going to win in the United States.
Well, the polls are garbage. The polls are garbage, and this is what the powers that be that you're talking about, that's where their power resides.
Well, a lot of people vote for who they think is going to win as opposed to who they want to vote for. Sure,
and in Canada we saw that in 2015. We saw the anybody but Harper vote, right? And we saw a coordinated media push that got me, fooled me good, right? And a whole bunch of other people as well. And really, it did, because that was its goal, right? And it got a whole bunch of people to vote for the disaster that we've currently got in our government. And so, your question. The answer, in my opinion, is we're watching it right now. We're watching their moves. And yes, they've got other...
on this PC liberal merry-go-round forever in this country. And I haven't followed politics until him, because he's the only one talking anything different than the rest of them. Because PCs and liberals are the same thing.
They are the same. They are the same, and that's why we are the only principal option. You had a question?
My name is Bria Atkins. I am the candidate in Lambton Kent Middlesex. I just want to switch gears a little bit back to supply management.
Yeah.
For anyone that doesn't know, my riding is physically the size of the province of Prince Edward Island. We stretch from London all the way to Sarnia and up to Granville as well. So, vast rural riding with many, many farmers, good people. And I would like to have you expand a little bit on the impact of supply management reform from the perspective of our farmers, exactly how it will roll out in their life, in their business, and also including the reform to farm tax. Could you expand on that for us?
So first, we will have to pay their quota, to reimburse their quota. So it will be about $3 to $5 million. We'll do that the first year. We won't open our borders before 5 years. So they will have 5 years for a transition period. They will be able to use that money to reinvest in their business for being more productive, being more efficient. Or some of them will use the money and just do other things. But if they want to invest, they will have the ability. They will have 5 years to be more productive. After that, they will be able to export their products in other countries because they won't receive any subsidies from consumers. And also, the competition that will come from other milk or poultry or eggs from other countries, that competition must be at the same level. So these other countries that will want to export their poultry, eggs, or milk, they will have to respect our sanitary legislation and our legislation on food. So that will be important. I'll give you an example. Some dairy producers in the US are giving some hormones to their cows, and it is illegal in Canada to do that. Not all the producers in the US, I must admit, some of them, but if they want to export their milk in Canada, they will have to export milk from a cow that didn't have any hormones, so that's important. And we will at the same time reinvest at our border to be sure that the products that are crossing our border respect our legislation. So I think that's important for them. We will pay back their quota on 5 years. They will have time to invest and be more productive. And after 5 years, they will be able to export. And for the competition that will come from other countries, it will be at the same level playing field.
And are you going to maintain the farm tax, or will there be a change in farm taxation as far as income tax related?
But the income tax reform will be at their benefits. They are businesses, so they are corporations. They will have a flat tax of 10%. They won't pay an income tax on their capital gains, so that will be important for them. They will save a lot there.
Thank you.
Merci. Thank you.
Hi, Maxime Bernier. Thank you for hosting this event, and thank you to everyone who came here. Despite the threat of possible protests or even violence from the far left, I think it means a lot that we're here standing up for freedom of speech and expression. Personally, for me, Maxime Bernier is the fundamental issue for me. We've been seeing the political climate has just been making systematic attacks on our fundamental rights to speech and expression. And I would just like to ask what you feel the People's Party can do to make sure we can preserve our right to express ourselves freely in this country. And for me, I just want to say that I'm a Canadian first and foremost. I just so happen to be gay or a son of immigrants or a person of color, but that doesn't define me. What defines me primarily is I'm a Canadian. And you said, in light of all of the unfair attacks that have been leveled against you. So I would just like to know what we can do for freedom of speech.
Well, yeah, free speech and freedom of conscience is very important for us. We have a platform on that. You can go on our website, you'll find it. But I'll give you an example of what happened in Parliament just before the end of June, that the Liberals voted to have a new definition of hate speech and bringing back Section 13 of the Human Rights Act. So when I was a Conservative, we abolished that section. and we don't need another definition of hate speech. We have a definition in the criminal code, and that's it. So our position on that is we will fight against that, and for sure we'll always fight for freedom of speech. And freedom of speech is, I can tell you something that you won't like, but I'm free to. It's not hate speech. So that's with our freedom that we are able to debate. If you have a new definition of hate speech, you won't be able to have real debates in this country. So our position is to fight against reinsertion of Section 13 and being sure that we'll have only one definition, the one in the criminal code, and that's it. So that's very important. But also freedom of conscience, it is important. We are asking you to go on our platform and then to read our platform on free speech and freedom of conscience. I think you'll be very happy. But the goal is to be sure that this country, everybody will be able to say what they believe in. And if somebody doesn't like that, that's not hate speech. And it's too important. And we have great candidates like Salim that is fighting for that every day. And all our candidates will fight and will be successful at the end. It's too important for the future of this country.
I just want to jump in too before we go to the next question. Sorry. The idea of shutting people down through threat of violence and through threat of just the simple threat of violence, right, is abhorrent. 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 2015, you could have speech and conversation that not was inflammatory, but heated. And that was something that was okay. That was something that was all right in our discourse. We could have a disagreement and then go get a beer, right? You weren't a Nazi and I wasn't whatever it is, doesn't matter. Or I wasn't a Nazi and you weren't a whatever. But now it's really interesting watching our leaders double down on carving up groups and saying, you're part of this group and you're part of this group and you're part of this group. It's a lot like, I've got brown hair and you've got black. That's interesting, right? Are you different than me because of your hair? That's out of your control and out of mine too. So why are we carving people up because of this? The content of your character matters more to me than the color of your hair, the fact that you wear glasses, or that you're wearing a white shirt, right? Who you are matters more to me. And within the context of debate and the context of speech, that should be paramount. But our leaders are talking about and trying to push this divisive language everywhere, and we're watching it. I mean, we're watching it in real time. We're watching people quiet down and shy away from having these hard conversations. We're watching people say, oh, I don't talk about politics, and then in the next breath talk about Trump and how much they hate him, how much he's terrible, right? Oh, you don't talk about politics unless you agree with everybody. It's terrible. It's terrible. We need to have the discourse. We need to have the ability to disagree and then go have a beer. And that's my goal. That's what I want, because I don't believe 100% in everything you believe in, but that doesn't mean I can't effectively represent you in Ottawa. What has to happen is the conversation has to happen at the municipal level, and everybody has to agree as much as we can, because it's imperfect. It's not going to be perfect. And the only thing we can struggle for is a little bit closer to imperfect, because that's all we can get. Right? It's always going to move, the target's always going to change, and the only way we can continue to even stay where we are is to have the conversation. And it seems like it's being shut down, and we are desperately trying to open it back up. We are desperately trying. So thank you for coming, despite everything that this gentleman said. Thank you for being here. It's important. And Mr. Bernier, you too, thank you, because it is important to have these conversations. It's important to tell these people and these people what we stand for, and it's important to not be shut down just because some angry people, a few angry people, get loud. Yeah. So thank you, and thank you for the question. I'm sorry I forgot to tell you. Two more?
Well, if you have two more, it's
two, because you want some time to make it, right? Yeah. Okay, two more questions, if that's okay. One, two.
He's already got
1, 2, 3. Oh, two. 4 more. Quick ones, though. Quick ones.
And quick answer.
Quick answer.
Hey, Max and Guelph. I'm kind of from Hamilton Mountain. Thanks for hosting this great event. Max, you have inspired a lot of people by standing firm on your beliefs and forming the PPC. But I'm curious what inspires Max. So if you were to give a recommendation on one fictional and one non-fictional book to read this summer, what would it be?
Ayn Rand, that's the one actually I asked my daughters to read it this summer. And the other one would be Economic in One Lesson from, I forget his name. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that would be two interesting book.
Interesting. Okay, two.
Hi, Max. Brian Everett, candidate for Sargent-Hampton. Thank you, everybody, for coming, and thanks for taking the time. It's very important. We're down in the trenches as candidates, and I hear this stuff about the debates with the CBC or whoever's going to be putting them on. We need you at that table, and in a big way.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring it up that we're expecting you to be at that table. The Canadian people deserve for the PPC to be at that table. And I just want to let everybody know, please go out and fight for that, because once we get them at the table, the Canadians hear what's being offered, we're golden. That's what
Maxime. I just want to make a couple of suggestions. Gentleman here has a PPC t-shirt. I have one. Wear it outside, and people will come and talk to you. It's good word. You go to the party website, order it. You also have mugs, okay? I'm gonna buy, I've got a business, I'm gonna buy, I don't know, maybe a dozen, 2 dozen mugs. And I'll go to Starbucks, use my mug, and leave it there. Because people need to know that the party exists, and they need to find out. I mean, I talked to a lady at Starbucks, and I told her, what about your freedom of speech? Oh, yeah, that's very important to me. She was going to vote NDP. Yeah, she's thinking now about voting PPC, because I told her this is the only party that will repeal that bill. Was it M13? What is it?
M13. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, and also I'm an engineer, okay? And we solve problems, okay? So I guess it's 11A. Shut it down. I don't care. Those engineers, they're gonna start their own companies. Their clients know them. They're working for them. They have a relationship with them. Business is built on a relationship. Anybody who's got a business knows that. Okay.
If you start under a new name.
Exactly. You'll have 100 small companies, much better. So, the story. The guy, one of the founders of BlackBerry, he said once, New York City thought they could never make the city any bigger about 100 years ago because they didn't know what they had no more place for them in New York. Okay, but innovation solved the problem. You got to use the talent of creative engineers to solve our problems with the environment, like that guy in Alberta with that, what I'm talking about. Yeah. So, and I would even suggest, instead of giving grants for people to say, I got a great idea, fund me, say, you have a good idea that'll achieve our goal for the environment, tax-free status for the life of the patent. They're going to keep the production in Canada, and they're going to export it. And that's going to create a lot of jobs.
Yeah,
and it's probably going to cost less than giving grants to people who just get grants and waste the money. And I've got customers who've done that, okay? 5 years later, they call me up and say, we're dissolving our company, can you buy back the equipment you sold to us?
Yeah.
Okay? So a few good ideas.
And I just want to speak about our PPC app. So we have some, you can buy some, but I was in Alberta last week, and a guy came to me, he said, Maxime, I like your PPC ad, it's very good, but you must do something else. I said, what? I have an idea for your ad, and you'll be more visible, and it will be in line with what you believe and what you want to do for this country. He said, you can have the PPC in each side, but here at the front, you must have something else. I said, what? He said, He said, you can test it. I said, okay, I'll test it. When I'll have a discussion with people, I will ask them. He said, you must write at the top of your hat, maximize Canada. Maximize Canada. Can we do it? Is it? Yeah. So that's my first focus group. So
One last thing, thank you for doing this.
thank you.
Oh, thank you. I hope so. One last question. Then
The real last one. Okay.
Yeah, last one. And then we have to. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Hazar, I'm the candidate for Mississauga Erin Mills. Mark, thanks for hosting us. This is fantastic. And Maxime, thank you, Maxime, for being here. As a closing question, I want to talk about or ask about labels. Now, on Twitter, I've already been called a fascist, but also been called a commie, and also been called crazy eyes, and also a racist, and the list goes on. And I'm feeling like people are not able to label us. So I already know the answer to this, but Maxime, if you could answer this for everyone to know, what would you label the PPC as on the political spectrum? Because we talk a lot about the left and we talk a lot about the right. So where is the PPC?
We are the freedom fighters. I think that's important. We are fighting for freedom first. And also what we want, every time that there's a challenge in our society, we're not looking for a government solution. We're looking for a private sector solution. We're looking for you as the solution. So the question is, do you want more involvement in the government involvement in your day-to-day life, or less government in your day-to-day life? It's less government involvement in your day-to-day life, but also more freedom. So I think that's speaking about left and right. Yeah, you're right, because President Clinton was a Democrat and supposed to be a leftist, but is the one who cut the spending the more at the federal level for the US at that time. So he gave more freedom, and he was able to manage the budget. So left and right, sometimes it's not the right decision. And Reagan said, we're not from the left or from the right. We are looking forward. So Reagan, the definition was we are looking forward. And so for me, it is, we are the freedom fighters. We are fighting for people. We are putting people first. And in our day-to-day life, we want to have more freedom and less government intervention. And we want the government not to take care of us every day and putting a regulation in front of us because, we're not responsible. We are responsible people. And then when you are responsible for your good actions, but also for your bad one. So less government in your day-to-day life, more freedom, and we are fighting for the real values of our country.
Okay.
I'm going to finish with our star candidate, or the ambassador of the region.
I just want to say, on the left-right issue, the people who argue left, the people who argue right, they will not make good surgeons because they want to amputate you. Amputate the left, amputate the right. If you are right, amputate the left. It takes two wings for the bird to fly. People's Party are two-winged creature, and it takes a head to keep the direction. And so we are rational people.
Yeah.
With that, we're going to have a little bit of time for Mr. Bernier to mingle and talk to you guys. Very much for coming, and thank you out there for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful evening.